Welcome to this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches. I'm your coach, Mike Wilkins, here with Coach Will Morrill. And this week, we have a special guest, Coach Randy Villarreal. Randy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Right on. So, this episode, we're just going to dive real deep into Randy's life, see what's hiding back there. And we just want everybody to get to know Randy. So, Randy, what brings you to Pittsburgh?
Jiu-jitsu. Easy answer. One thing led to another through AGF, then meeting Warren, and basically invited me out here, and here I am now.
Right on. All right, cool. So Randy's currently the head instructor at the Bridgeville location. How are you liking the Bridgeville location?
So far, so good. Everyone's been super welcoming. Kids are awesome. The adults are awesome. Just feels like a perfect fit, if I'm being honest.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting a lot of like great reports from everybody about you. Like everybody's talking so highly about you out in Bridgeville. Unfortunately, I don't make it out to Bridgeville as much as I used to ever since you came and took my job, but no big deal. But when I do make it out to utilize the sauna, which I love out there, they just talk very highly of you. So, Randy, tell us a little bit about like your path into jiu-jitsu.
Let me see. I started jiu-jitsu 2006, so I'm old. 18 years ago, 19 years ago. Originally I always wanted, growing up, I wanted to wrestle, but in Texas we didn't have wrestling.
Yeah.
So the closest was pro wrestling, being a pro wrestling fan. Yeah. But no, kind of just, let me see, I was in college at the time. I heard a ad on the radio station. There was a jiu-jitsu school near where I was staying. And I went and took one class and literally never stopped.
Oh, man, that's
awesome.
Crazy.
Now, are you originally from Texas?
Yeah, born and raised.
Oh, sick. What part of Texas?
South Texas, hours south of San Antonio.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So you started jiu-jitsu there.
Yeah.
And then you started competing right away. You instantly fell in love with it. How did it all work?
I could definitely say I fell in love with it right away. It just came natural. I competed about, 4 months after training.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't do too good. I got submitted to the guillotine choke. But from there, let me see. I was in college at the time. Parents don't know this. I was on academic probation. Freaking hated school. So from there, my parents they were living in North Texas, and they're like, "Hey, you should come live with us. Just go to school up here."
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was my way out of getting out of college, right? So I went up there and I found a gym up there, and I just started training. And the next thing I know, I'm having conversation with my parents, I don't think I want to be in school anymore.
Well, you still went to school. It's just a different type of school.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it's all about, is finding what it is that you love.
And you're using your degree from that school.
Yeah,
right?
for real.
You turned it into a career. That's funny. So, Randy and I were we're born 3 days apart. So, very same time growing up and stuff like that, different parts of the country or whatever. But I, too, probably the same year you were on academic probation, I, too, was on academic probation. And I also left school to do this full time.
So quit school, kids. That's how you make it.
Well, I mean, I don't regret it because, again, just like you, I'm using what I went to school for.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially, I went to school for jiu-jitsu, MMA, wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, dude, think about it.
That's my job.
To get a PhD is usually 4 years after undergrad, right? So that's 8 years. To be a doctor is usually a 10-ish plus year process. That's the same thing as being a black belt, right? So you're a doctor of jiu-jitsu. So it all worked out.
It's ironic too, because I went to school for coaching.
Oh yeah,
kinesiology.
There you go. Yeah. Oh no way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I went. I was going to be a history teacher.
Same, bro.
You guys are the same person.
It's crazy. Yeah. I went to be a history teacher because I had a history teacher who was a coach in school, and when I took his class, I'm not going to say his name. But when I took his class, we didn't do anything. He would just sit on his desk and just tell us funny stories, and then everybody in the class got some level of an A. And we were like, Mr. Burp, how do you do that? And he was like, there's no standardized testing for history. They can't tell if I do a good job or not. right? Like in math class, right? If the whole school is failing the PSSAs for math, they're going to know that we're not doing our job. Yeah. It's like, there's no way to check if I'm teaching you or not.
And you're like, that's for me.
And I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. He's like, you just got to get tenure. And then, boom.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you're like, enough of this regular school nonsense. Let's go dive into jiu-jitsu. So was it just like, you start competing and then you're just full speed ahead, like this is the focus, or were you like doing other things? Were you like not sure what you wanted to do with jiu-jitsu yet?
No, I started whenever I moved, when I was staying with my parents. I was working with my dad, just, get some income, but I just knew I wanted to fight. Mm-hmm. I had no intention of coaching one day, any of that. I just knew I wanted to fight, and I knew jiu-jitsu was part of fighting.
Oh, that's sick. So jiu-jitsu was really just like a part of MMA, and that was the main goal at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I guess this brings us to the next part of it. So when did you start fighting then?
I had my first amateur fight the summer of 2007.
Oh, wow. So not too long after.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
That's crazy. Yeah.
What was your first fight?
December of 2007.
What year did you turn pro?
11.
2010.
Yep. See, he went to the league early. I had a red shirt year.
So what was the like amateur and pro scene like in Texas? Was it like kind of similar to how it is in PA now? Was it like the Wild West, how it was in PA like 10 years ago?
Back then, there was definitely a pro scene already. It was more regional. Like there was, not sure if you ever heard of Shark Fights. They're real big back in the day. They're Texas based. The amateur scene was just coming up. Like I think it just started like 2-3 years prior to me starting to fight. So it was still kind of new, I would say.
Right. But at least you guys had pros. When Mike was coming up, MMA was illegal in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it was illegal in Pennsylvania for my whole amateur career. And, like, there was, like, pro fighters that we had heard of, but, like, we didn't know any pros.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, like, everybody I knew was just an amateur. So it was, like, how do you even go about becoming a pro? There was, like, no, like, example to follow.
Yeah.
Were there, like, underground fights at the time?
No, we just went to different states where it was, so I did my whole amateur career in Ohio, where it was sanctioned and legal.
So you shoot through an amateur career. How many amateur fights did you have?
I had 10. I was 7-3 amateur.
Okay, yeah.
Me too.
No, this is surprising. So then you go pro, like, relatively quickly, I guess. Well, I mean, 10 is kind of a normal amount. So then you're off to the races going pro. Uh-huh. How was that? Would you learn? Would you...
Listen to your coaches more.
There you go. I got some questions. So did you find it difficult being in like a lighter weight class, especially?
Oh yeah.
Like you're at the time that you're coming up, like I'm sure like your weight class didn't exist in a lot of organizations. I mean, you think about it, like when we were coming up, like the guys that we were looking up to, right? Like the lightest weight class for a long time in the UFC, like when we were amateurs, the lightest weight class was like 170, and then they brought 155.
Right. Finally brought it back. Yeah. It was WEC, but...
Yeah. And then the WEC finally got absorbed by Zuffa, and then that's where we got 35ers and 45ers. But even then, 25ers were even after that.
Yeah. I didn't fight at 25 till... at least 10 fights into my career.
Oh, man.
It was like, even my pro debut, I remember I was sick the week of, it was at 135. I weighed in at 133, cutting zero weight. Oh. Eating fruit on the way to weigh-ins.
That's wild. What was the heaviest weight you ever fought? Did you have to go to like 55 or anything?
145.
Oh, man.
Like 140, 141. In fact, my biggest win was at 145.
Oh, that's sick.
It was, but at the same time, it kind of led me to a path I should have taken in my career. But no, it was on 10 days notice. I fought a Bellator vet. It was 20-4 at the time. Fought him on 10 days notice.
Do you think that it was because like there's no pressure because you're like, I'm up multiple weight classes, 10 days notice, and that allowed you to compete well, or were you just...
Honestly, I just always wanted to fight. I was always looking for the next fight.
That's awesome.
Like, no lie, I was pretty fucking scared going into that. But in the back of my head, I was like, man, my jiu-jitsu is going to save me. At some point, my jiu-jitsu is going to come through. And I won a armbar first round.
Oh, that's so sick. Yeah. So, okay, so you were saying that in Texas there wasn't, like, wrestling available for you. would you say that the level of wrestling in like the MMA scene in Texas at the time was a little bit lower than like, you know, what we see nowadays?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Like people obviously went for takedowns, but it was either like just striking and jiu-jitsu and like if there was a wrestler, he probably came from another state to come fight in Texas.
Oh, that's interesting because that's something I'm like really starting to understand a lot. Like just over the past like 5-10 years is like how lucky I am that the kids that I'm training like are really good at wrestling, you know, like freakishly good at wrestling. I had a training trip out in California. I was training at a gym called CSA, and they were like, you know, it's like this big coach's clinic, and they're like, all right, who knows how to wrestle? I'm certainly not going to raise my hand because like I know where I stand. And so there was like a bunch of guys who raised their hand. He's like, all right, only like college people, whatever. And so they had like, I think 2 or 3 guys end up like doing these drills. And the one kid, I was like, all right, that guy's legit. Everyone else, I was like, dude, everyone at my gym can wrestle like this. Like what? And then like things like that started to really make me realize like the level of wrestling in PA is unreal.
And you don't know because you're immersed in it. Like all the time we have like some jiu-jitsu students, you know, they're on vacation, on a trip or whatever, they train somewhere and they get so excited to tell me, and I love to hear it. They're like, yeah, they asked me where I wrestled. And I was like, I've never wrestled. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's just here, right?
Yeah.
If you're here, you don't even know it, but you're wrestling.
It's just in your blood. So would you say then that like, how do I describe it? Did you have more of like a Carlos Condit kind of style where it's like, we're not really wrestling a whole lot. It's just like offense with jiu-jitsu, striking, and just like, who cares about the position? We're just getting it. Or like, what you guys doing? I'm trying to figure out like, what was the fighting like at the time?
Honestly, for me, because he was like my favorite fighter growing up, I had a BJ Penn mentality.
Oh, I love that.
For better or worse, is a thing though. Yeah. So yeah, like definitely jiu-jitsu was always my background. But I like standing and bang.
That's awesome. Prime BJ was just unbelievable. That's so sick. All right, so you're fighting, and how many? You have a bunch of pro fights, right? You have like 30 or something.
24 pro fights.
So 34 fights total. That's a lot.
And that's because I took a 4-year break from 2013 to 2017.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dang.
Yep.
Yeah, that was like probably like would have been a good time during your career though. Like, because we're this, like I said, we're the same age. We're some parallels here. Oh, what weight did you debut at in 07?
135.
35. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you fight 145 at all in those early fights?
I didn't fight 145 till I turned pro. Like all my fights, amateur, were 135.
I was gonna hope that you were gonna be like, yeah, I fought 145 in December of 07. Because I'm like, me too. Now we stand next to each other. It's like, what?
To be fair, Mike, I think even for lightweight, you're on like the freakishly large side. Like everyone's always like, oh, you know, Gleison Tebow, he gets up to like 185 between fights. I'm like, light work. Mike's up at like 195.
Do you have like any pictures of you at 145?
Yeah.
That's freaking insane.
Yeah, I have pictures of me at 145. Now, I wasn't like as big at that point in time. Like, you know, because I mean, like, I'm sure you were, I don't know, like, I felt like I was still growing, you know? Like, I don't know if you felt like you were full grown at that time or not, but like, I wrestled 133 my freshman year of college, you know? But I also wasn't, like, I'm 5'10". I think at that point in time I was like 5'7", 5'8". Like, I was still, like, growing, and no one told me. And then there was one day where I was, like, going to go back to 145, and I was like, dude, I'm 180. That's really far away. And I wasn't, like, crazy out of shape either. And that's when I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to 155.
What was that weight cut like? 145
to 145. It was the same as 150. It's just like I moved up when I got bigger, you know. But you know, I would cut from around like 165 to 145, but I would kind of like get myself leaned up to where my water cut would be from about 160 to 145. So nothing crazy, but I did absolutely do my water cuts wrong. Earlier on.
We discovered that later on.
Being dehydrated the whole week. Like, be like, all right, on Monday I'm going to get down to 157, then on Tuesday I'll get down to 154, and then Wednesday, just the whole week until I got down to 145.
So actually, this is something that's interesting with like kind of the lack of wrestling culture. When you first started fighting, because like a lot of our guys, they're like, oh yeah, I know how to cut weight because they wrestled. So that oftentimes means they don't know how to cut weight. What were you guys doing to cut weight?
Old school sauna suit, running in Texas heat.
Yep, sounds like the same thing was happening around the whole country then. Yeah. So, okay, so you're fighting. And that's the prime objective at the point. Is jiu-jitsu, are you training gi at all of it, just no gi?
Mainly no gi. So like my first 4 years, I didn't really have a jiu-jitsu coach. I had a Valley Tudo coach who specialized in the ground.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was 4-year white belt, not really having a coach. It's funny too. So like I started fighting 2007. Summer of 2008, I was already coaching as a white belt.
Oh wow.
Yeah, coaching jiu-jitsu, coaching MMA.
That's cool. I mean, you learn a lot from teaching.
Yeah, but imagine that now, like a white belt.
Not really something you see these days, but again, it was a different era.
Yeah.
So, all right, so you're teaching. So then at what point did the gi go on? At what point were you like, hey, I'm going to be a black belt?
So, turned pro 2010. I joined, that was when I was living in Fort Worth at Genesis Jiu-Jitsu. My coach, Albert Hughes, that's where I got my black belt from. That's when I finally started training like in the gi.
Right.
4 years in.
And was that when you like, so obviously fighting is like the main priority, but was it always kind of in the back of your head like, I'm going to be a black belt?
Oh yeah. Sure. Especially once I started training in the gi. But even then my gi journey was from being a blue belt to a 4-stripe blue belt.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common for most people. Like, no gi's where it's at.
Yeah.
It's just so much more exciting and fun. And
I'm just blown away by these parallels though, because like I was coaching people like as a white belt. And, I also I say I started training jiu-jitsu in 2007 because that's when I started fighting MMA, and I just was like, well, jiu-jitsu was part of it, but I wasn't training jiu-jitsu formally under a formal instructor, right? Like basically the same thing. Like the person who was teaching me any of my grappling was also a white belt, and it was just DVDs.
Yeah, yeah.
And then my first coach who got me into the gi was Warren, and that was 15 years ago now. 15-year anniversary. That was 2010 that I got in the gi too. And so I say that I was a 4-year white belt, even though like I didn't start doing jiu-jitsu until 2010, and then I also got my blue belt in 2010. So it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. So all right. So you're fighting. You get your black belt. Actually, when did you get your black belt?
2017.
2017.
19.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I already know because he was already a second degree.
Close enough.
I was pissed how much warmer he was than me. With all those degrees.
All right, so I assume you get your black belt. You're teaching?
Yeah.
At what point did you decide, like, hey, I want to really devote myself to teaching, less competing or competing?
2013 when I took that 4-year break. It's kind of like, because again, I was already teaching at that time. I was always teaching, fighting, but then at that time it was like, man, since I'm not fighting, I might as well go all in on coaching jiu-jitsu, MMA fighters, and that's where I kind of found that was my actual calling. As much as I wanted to fight, that's not what God had for me. It was coaching, teaching others jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I've experienced very similar things where you're fighting at a time, you're like, this is all I care about, and then as soon as that kind of like switches a little bit, then you're like, oh, this actually coaching is kind of better, and for me at least, it fits better. So that's kind of cool. So you make that change, you start coaching, and then so how did it happen? And we kind of touched on it, like AGF, you kind of come up here. Did you meet Warren at like a tournament or?
No, so as far as like moving up here, it was October of 2023. I worked AGF Pittsburgh. I actually worked here 2 years in a row. Tournament ended early, so I finally got a chance to explore the city. I was just driving around everywhere, and it was like, man, the city's actually pretty cool. Like, I could see myself like living here one day.
Yeah.
So I just went home. I talked to my wife Sam about it, and because she had worked it also, but she didn't get a tour of the city or anything. So like when I was driving around the city, I was just FaceTiming her.
Yeah, you're like, check it out. Were you guys thinking about moving already, or
no?
No, you're just like,
this is what I'm interested to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So again, that was October 2023. I just went home. We started talking about it. And we're kind of like at a point to where we felt we accomplished all that we could with our gym. Like it was prospering. We had great relationships with our students, and it was kind of like there was not really a challenge there anymore. So like we got to like we want something new.
Yeah, it felt like you're plateauing a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she was like, "Well, we both like Pittsburgh. What do you think of moving over there?" I was like, "Man, I'd love to, but we got our kids. Like, if anything, I know they're not going to move. We'll move like in 8 years when Honor graduates."
Right.
Then like days went by, I was like, "I don't think I could wait 8 years. Let's do like 3 years." And then it was funny. We were at a AGF there in Dallas. I was talking to the owner, Chris. I was like, just kind of put it in his ear, like, "Hey, is there ever a like chance we could grow more with the company, whatever that is?" And at the time, there was like 5 different directors. So it's like, "Whoa, we're pretty full with directors, so there's really nothing for you right now other than like reffing or being a head ref or whatever." And he's like, "Why? What are you thinking?" I was like, "Man, like we actually want to move like pretty soon." And he's like, "Where to?" And I was like, "Pittsburgh." He's like, "Pittsburgh? I love Pittsburgh. That's my favorite city." Because he's a big Steelers fan. So he was like, "Actually, we need a director out there in the Northeast to kind of help build those markets." So again, that was like late October. We worked AJF in Lubbock, Texas. About 3 weeks later, talked to Chris Moore. He's like, "Hey man, so I talked to Brandon about y'all situation. He's on board with y'all moving out there, but if we were to help y'all move out there, it can't be 3 to 5 years from now." I was like, "Okay, so how soon?" He's like, "Probably in the next year."
That's awesome.
So like it just all started kind of lining up. We went home, we talked to the kids, and they weren't on board with it at all. They were like, "No, it's too far. We don't even know what's out there." Yeah. And I was like, "Just don't knock it till like you try it." Yeah. So like we're like, "You know what? We'll make a family trip out there." So we actually came up here for Thanksgiving. And I remember I emailed Warren just like I was looking for gyms. Yeah. That was the first one that popped up. So I was like, I remember I emailed him. I was like, "I know what it's like if somebody, a visitor, somebody out of town emails you, like you probably won't respond." So I was like, "I'm going to name my credentials so that way like you'll take me serious." Yeah. So I was like talking to the kids what they're doing, myself, Sam being black belts, and he wrote back, he's like, "Yeah, we have Nogi kids class in our Zelly location on Wednesdays, and you're more than welcome to drop by." So we made the trip up here for Thanksgiving, went and trained at Zealy, and Warren was there, Alex was taking class, and it was pretty cool. He actually asked me if I wanted to teach after Alex had the end of class.
Oh, cool.
So I taught, then we started rolling and freaking rolling with Alex.
Oh, yeah. He's a monster.
Yeah, he fucked me up. And like, Warren was like, "Don't worry, he does the same thing to me." So like,
Alex is also very, very big.
Yeah, he's big and very strong too.
I mean, he's super good, but like also
that too. Yeah.
So like after class, I was talking to Warren in the locker room, and we were just like, "So what brought you out here to Pittsburgh?" I kind of gave him the rundown what was going on. I mentioned AJF wanted to move out here. He's like, "Oh, well, if you already decided to move out here, I'd love to have y'all as part of the gym." So like, yes.
Everything just worked out.
Yeah, it all just pretty much lined up. Just one
That's awesome.
after the other.
And worked out perfectly for us too, because we were like, "Yo, we really need someone who's really good." That's awesome. Okay, so I gotta know why. Like, what did you see in Pittsburgh? Because I see the same thing, but I'm a little biased because like I'm from here. Like, I think Pittsburgh's awesome. What did you like about Pittsburgh?
It was just different than Texas. Like, I guess how old the city is, all the history here, the downtown, the skyline. Yeah.
The way I look at Pittsburgh is it's like you have all of the good things of a big giant city with universities and museums and, you know, just like restaurants, everything that you'd want from like a big city, but also not like the big city problems, like the traffic's not too crazy, and there's like 1 degree of separation between everyone in the city, and like it's got like small town vibes with like big city amenities. I love Pittsburgh, and also like where it is, especially if you're traveling a lot, you're like not that far from New York and Boston and anywhere on the East Coast. Obviously, shoot over to Ohio very easily, and even like making your way like south, like you're closer to a lot of things than people sometimes realize. I think.
Yeah, see, that's what I also like. Whenever I started like looking at all the different cities around, there was like 20 plus major cities within 5 hours.
Yeah,
5 hours, you're still in Texas.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That's wild. Oh, that's
also,
so
I'm
sick.
a huge Mac Miller fan, and so it was like.
I grew up with him, same neighborhood. He grew
Really?
up like a couple streets down from me. Yeah, we were in like opposing like friend groups. So like his buddies would like play my buddies in football and stuff, and yeah, we partied together and stuff. Yeah, I knew him back in the day.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was wild times.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you liked Pittsburgh, 'cause everything worked out.
It's kind of sometimes weird hearing like someone be like, "Oh yeah, I liked Pittsburgh," and I'm like, "What?
Why?"
Like I guess because like I'm from here, right? Like, you ever see like postcards? Like, who wants a Pittsburgh postcard?
Well, I think also,
or like someone's here like on vacation. You're like, what? Like, vacation to me is like a beach,
right?
I'm like, what are you here for?
I think Pittsburgh also, like, especially from like when we were younger, it has a reputation as being like a disgusting steel town, right? There's just smog everywhere. But then like, obviously the past like 20 years especially, it's been rated like most livable like so many times. Again, nothing not to love about Pittsburgh. It's awesome. So that kind of makes sense. So you make your way up here, start teaching at Bridgeville. You're running these tournaments. Tell us more about AGF.
Yeah. So I started AGF 2021. It was literally like Chris Carlino, the owner, he had made a post on Facebook. It was like, AGF's growing so much, we're constantly needing refs. If you're interested in reffing, shoot me a message. And I was like, man, I'll just give this a try. Like, why not? It's like a side gig. Get to be around jiu-jitsu. I get to travel. So I just messaged him like, hey, I saw your post. You're needing refs. I'd be interested in reffing. When do you need refs? And he's like, well, we actually have a tournament tomorrow in Lubbock. Could you make it tomorrow? So I was like, yeah, I don't see why not. So like,
how far of a drive was that?
4.5 hours.
Still in Texas.
Still, yeah. So yeah, made the drive. I reffed that the next day, and it's pretty much just thrown to the wolves. Like, your first 3 tournaments you work, they're supposed to train you. They have a senior ref overlooking you. You don't mess up or whatever. I think they trained me for like 4 matches, and rest of the day I was
got it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, from there I just started reffing with them. I ref like the next 3 weekends in a row for them, and kind of just took off from there.
Oh, that's super cool. So we have an AGF tournament coming to Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So we got one coming March 29th.
March 29th.
That'll be like right now as time of recording. It's like a month away.
Yep.
Yeah. So what are some things about the AGF that make it a good tournament?
Man, so not trying to sound biased, obviously, but
I want the most. I want it. I want to hear everything like good about it and why I should be excited because you competing at the AGF.
You only got a biased opinion by living it. You know? If you showed up to that tournament and you were like, "This is trash," you wouldn't still.
I wouldn't be with them.
So give us your experience of it. That's what we want.
So like AGF to me, what we stand out with from other promotions is like the customer service. Everything is customer service based. Like, you email like, hey, I need to make this change, that change, like someone's gonna respond to you within like that day. Like, yes, we'd be happy to help you. Same thing there at the tournament. Just any sort of help you need, whether it's finding matches, divisions, we're always like happy to help.
Man, that's huge. We could have used that for the what was it? There was that tournament at the Arnold. The Warriors Cup tournament. I was going to bring like half the Muay Thai guys over there. We went last year when it was run by TBA. And like last year with the TBAs, they had like bracket, maybe not brackets, but they had like divisions showing you like who was in it and if you'd have fights and everything. There was nothing this year. So they had one contact email. I hit the guy up. I was like, hey man, like, thinking of bringing like a relatively big team through. Can you give me some information? Nothing. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to just like bring like 9 guys to a tournament when I have no idea if they're going to get fights or not. Yeah. So that's huge. That's really huge.
Yeah.
What's the rule set like in AGF? Is it like more IBJJF, ADCC?
Definitely its own rule set. So like even that I like with them. Brandon, the other owner, he's always looking to like kind of evolve with the sport and implement what he feels is like going to be more beneficial for the sport in the long run. So like one of the biggest rule changes he made that at first I was so against, and the more like coaching through it, competing, I actually enjoyed it, was the reversal. So with AGF, it's 2 points for a reversal.
Okay.
So I love that so much. That has been like a thorn in my side as far as jiu-jitsu scoring. So typically, like in order to score going from bottom to top, right? That's a reversal.
Yep.
What does it matter if it came from a guard, right? Like it's the end goal, not the way you got there.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
Anytime like you get to the top, like why are you, like, just because you were in side control or mount or whatever, like how do I not get rewarded for coming out of that position to the top position, So oftentimes when I'm teaching, like I explain the difference between a reversal and a sweep, right? And I always say, I was like, and I don't agree with it, right? But like, it's not my job to agree or disagree with how something should be scored. It's my job to tell you how it's going to be scored. So I really love reversals.
Yeah, same. So like I remember whenever he was first talking about implementing it, was like, this is so stupid of a rule. Like, if someone is in the same mount, for example, why am I going to attack an arm bar if I end up on bottom? I'm going to get scored on.
Right.
So then, like going to the gym and implementing the rule set for my students, what I noticed is they fought harder to stay on top.
Yeah.
So like it was making their jiu-jitsu better. So like, all right, I could get down with this rule.
That's awesome. That also applies to MMA better too.
Oh yeah,
like, keeping top position is really important.
Yeah. That kind of like using MMA as a barometer. Sometimes I like really like it, and sometimes I don't. Right?
I agree.
It's like you can't do this in MMA because you would get hit, and I'd be like, that doesn't mean that it doesn't hold value in sport jiu-jitsu. Like I like the sport too.
Oh, for sure.
Like that's one of the cool things. There's like how much stuff is there in boxing that you can't do in MMA?
That's the exact.
Right? But we still think it's like beautiful in boxing.
For sure.
Like,
That's
why
also
can't we have that in jiu-jitsu. It doesn't have to be held to the MMA standard. But I also like, it being a useful tool in MMA. I like MMA being the measuring stick of like a legitimate martial art.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like that, like because like in MMA there's no points, right? So like it's the natural consequence of falling off the mount. Yeah.
But also, like you were saying, it is beautiful to have the individual arts, because think about it. If you have like, I don't know, what's a sport jiu-jitsu specific, like leg locks, right? Like the intricate leg lock systems that we see nowadays. Like if jiu-jitsu was only for MMA, we would not see the same level of leg locking, right? But because people have explored that, we probably know more about that, and like especially us specifically, because it's trickled down from like other generations, about how to use those positions for sweeps and how to actually finish them in MMA where maybe you can't get hit and where you can get hit. And again, all these things we wouldn't fully understand, had that not have been explored. Same thing, like you said, with boxing. Like a lot of the intricate boxing things, especially stylistically, like bending your waist versus your knees, so like some of those things are obviously different in MMA than they are in boxing, but I don't think we would see the level of development if boxing didn't exist. So I think, sport jiu-jitsu absolutely has its place. With that said, I very much like that rule. Top position should be a priority.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some other cool rules? Can I guide you towards some that I like?
Yes, please.
Is the 1 point guard pull. So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so like, Brandon's whole thought process was trying to make a rule set as close to a fight as possible without strikes being thrown.
Right.
So with the 1 point guard rule, the official name for it is conceding the takedown.
Conceding the takedown.
So you concede the takedown,
like that.
you give up 1 point. Your opponent, after 3 seconds, they get a point. And again, if this was self defense, you probably wouldn't be pulling guard in a self defense scenario.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I personally like it. I pull guard just as much as I wrestle, and for me, like if one, like, if I lose by 1 point, did I really deserve to win? Because I didn't score. Like, say you attack a strong submission attempt, it's tied 1-1. You're the last to score, you win.
Yeah.
So are submission attempts kind of like in the way that one does it? Like, is it like a catch and that gives you a point if it's like a deep submission?
Yeah, so if it's a strong submission attempt where like no other steps are needed to be taken to finish it, you get 1 point for it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So it's encouraging being aggressive.
Yes.
Sounds like this tournament would be perfect for MMA fighters to do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think it would be a good developmental tournament for a lot of MMA fighters.
I think some of our MMA fighters may be listening. You guys should do AGF.
Maybe
all of you guys should do AGF.
Maybe all of them. So some other things that I like about AGF is, rewarding like high amplitude.
Yeah.
So coming from a wrestling background, in freestyle wrestling, high amplitude is also rewarded, right? So can you tell us how high amplitude takedowns are rewarded at the AGF?
Yeah, so with the AGF, we have what's called the high elevation takedown. It's basically any takedown. It could actually be a sweep too on the ground, to where you get your opponent's hips higher than yours, you get an extra point. So like think of like a high crotch or a mat return.
Yeah.
Tomonagi on the ground.
Right.
You're gonna get that extra point.
Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. So I like how that. It adds to like strategy too, right? So like if I'm like shooting a double, right? Like now I'm encouraged to lift.
Yeah.
Right. And like there's value to that as well for MMA, because now we're removing your feet from the mat, right? We're taking that tool, that connection away from you for your defense, so I think that encourages that as well, and I really like that.
And again, it makes it more aggressive, which is awesome for a number of reasons.
Yeah. Now there's one thing that I've seen at AGF that I've never seen at any other jiu-jitsu tournament, and it's the challenge bag.
Oh yeah. So that's another thing that to me sets AGF apart. So we have what's called the challenge bag. If like at any point in the match, a coach doesn't agree with the call, they say they feel the ref messed up, they missed a point, missed a submission attempt, whatever the case may be, you could challenge the match or challenge the call. You just throw the bag out. Once there's a break in the action, the ref stops the match. He goes and gets the head ref. We review the footage and just take it from there. If you won the challenge, the ref won the challenge.
Right.
But yeah.
Is there a penalty if you lose the challenge?
So officially you get 2 challenges. If you lose 2 challenges, you can't challenge anymore.
For that match or for the tournament?
For the tournament. We've had tournaments who are like certain coaches challenging the whole day.
Yeah.
Whether they won, they lost, they're just challenging.
Is it per coach or per like competitor?
Per team.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So like if we have a big team there, right? Like let's say we have like 80 competitors. We get 2 challenges. And let's say that team B has 1 competitor. They still get 2 challenges.
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh, you got to be real careful with it.
Well, I mean, I think that's still very fair though, because like a school or a team that brings a lot of competitors is going to score a lot of points based off of that alone.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like there'll probably be brackets where like you take multiple medals in the same bracket.
Right. Yeah.
We've definitely had that happen where we're like the entire podium.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah. So. Hey, there you go. Right on. I actually competed in an AGF one time when it came through in Pittsburgh, and it was my favorite local jiu-jitsu competition I've ever done. Yeah, you guys held the USA Grappling qualifier, and we like found out about it like last minute, and like a group of us did it. Myself, Vince, Alex, Logan, Claire, Brittany, and Christian. We all did it along with some of the Mat Factory guys who did it too. And it was a really good time. They brought the big mat out for that. Yep. Yeah, so there was like tons of space. It was like a 40-foot circle.
Oh, that's so sick.
Like, yeah, like in that particular rule set, the USA Grappling rule set, if you get forced out of balance, it's a point. Right? Like takes from freestyle wrestling.
Right, yeah.
They used the UWW rule set for that. And no one was even close to going out. It was just so big, no one was close to going out. But I had a lot of fun doing that one. Another thing that I really like as a coach about the AGF is I like the organization of like the mat space in the facility, right? Like I like that I don't have to like like stand, like if you take like the IBJJF for example, which is like a prominent jiu-jitsu organization, if I'm coaching someone, I'm standing at the barrier next to their mom who's filming,
like his buddy who's
the other coach and me are standing shoulder to shoulder,
right?
And like, you know, like as the day goes on, everybody's leaning on those barriers, they get pushed closer into the mat, and like then sometimes like you can't really like get to your athlete like when necessary. You guys have the barrier, but the coaches are inside the barrier.
Yeah, so there's a coach's seat,
and there's a seat for
mat side.
Yeah, so it's very organized, and that's probably one of my favorite things. I also like that you guys run a bullpen, so like I feel like things happen so much smoother and faster than what I'm accustomed to for tournaments.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I really enjoy AGF is how organized everything is. Like our tournaments, we're either right on time or running ahead of schedule. And one of the things that we do different is what you're talking about. We call it our staging times.
Yeah.
So like, so say you have an 8:30 staging time, you're going to be competing at 8:30, maybe even before 8:30 or 9:30.
Yeah.
Just definitely helps keep everything more organized, keeps the tournament flowing.
Yeah, that's huge because I'm sure all seen tournaments start to drift away, and then next thing you know, it's like running 3 hours late.
I think that the organization level of the AGF's tournaments just makes it seem so like clean, right? Like it makes my brain feel good.
Yeah,
right? Like I'm not like cluttered, right? And in turn, right? Like, you know, everybody who competes, you know, has different reasons for competing. But I think we all appreciate having some cool videos and pictures of ourselves, right? And because it's so like free of clutter and like organized, the mat space and stuff, it makes for like some really good photos and videos as well.
That's awesome.
Well, now with the AGF, we have what we call our Pro Division, which is pretty cool. So Pro Divisions is new this year for 2025. Every tournament has one. It's up to 175 pounds and above 175 pounds for the males, and females is up to 135 pounds, then above 135 pounds. If you win in any pro division throughout the year, you qualify for the year-end finals in Dallas. And if you win the year-end finals, you win $5,000. So it's $5,000 per division, $20,000 total.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
So hold on. So is it like... You go ahead.
Okay, I got questions about it. Okay, so only the winner of the pro division qualifies for the finals in Dallas, right?
Yes.
So theoretically speaking, let's say that I was going to enter the pro division, right? And, you know, I'm in the over 175 pro division. I would win that naturally.
Of course.
And then I would qualify for the final, right? Then could I go to like, you know, like the AGF New Jersey the next weekend and win that to keep other people out of the final?
Yes.
To make the bracket soft.
Yes, you can.
Something people used to do in freestyle wrestling. You would go, like someone who would be qualified for, let's say, the World Team Trials. If they wanted to, like, let's say I'm like, dang, man, Randy's really tough. I don't want to, like, lose my World Team spot to him. I can give myself more chances at keeping him off by... I'll go to the qualifier he's at. If I beat him there, then he can't even come. But if I don't, I still get another chance to beat him at the World Team Trials. So I can just travel around with the AGF and try to like keep everyone out of the finals.
Exactly.
The problem is there's multiple AGFs going on at the same time. You will not be able to keep everyone out.
But that's still like a cool like overall strategy. And again, what I like about jiu-jitsu like rule sets is when they reward aggression. And I do have obviously like a very like MMA kind of bias towards things, but even just like the attacking submissions I think is really important, and that on like a larger scale still encourages aggression. Like, hey, I'm gonna show up to multiple tournaments and I'm gonna win this multiple times. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Now is it all nogi?
For the pro grappling, yes, but
okay.
AGF tournaments is both gi.
They got both of them. Okay, that's cool.
Now, are there age divisions as well? Like, is there like for the regular age? Like, not for the pro division.
Yeah, so for
like masters and
yes, so it's kiddos. Obviously, kids are from age 4 to 15. Then there's our juveniles 16, 17. Then adults is 18 to 30. Masters 30 to 40. Then it's seniors 40 to 50. Then 50 and up is executives.
Okay, all right, cool. So I really like that because that keeps people like with a space to compete. You know what I mean? Right? Like I'm really into like the masters levels divisions, and I'm really appreciative that they exist. And I really appreciate masters levels athletes who compete in them to make sure that they continue to exist. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, just keeps more people engaged in jiu-jitsu. And I do think competition really drives jiu-jitsu, like, and the progress in jiu-jitsu. So that keeps, like, you know, people as we age, right? Like, you know, like when I'm like, you know, in my 50s, like I hope that these 25-year-olds would be able to whoop on me. So I would like to be able to fight the other 50-year-olds.
Well, also think about someone like me, right? Like, so, you know, I have done jiu-jitsu tournaments in the past, and then, you know, some neck surgery and such. So, like, you know, it's, if I'm being honest, it's probably pretty low that I'm going to, like, low chance I'm going to compete in jiu-jitsu in the future, because I'm so focused on.
There's a 100% chance that you compete in jiu-jitsu in the future.
I'm
willing to put it, I bet you there's a 100% chance you compete in jiu-jitsu in the future, so much so that I'm willing to put $5,000 that you compete on it before you're 50.
So there you go.
Can make $5,000 by being like by refusing.
Well, yeah. What I was gonna say is, if there weren't the age brackets, there's like no chance I'd do it.
Well, yeah.
I'm not trying to get in there with these like 20-year-old blue belts who are just gonna go hard. And
bro, so imagine me, like I'm like $150. So like for me, if I'm fighting someone 150, they're probably a freaking teenager. Like,
yeah,
that's brutal.
Yeah, and the young kids. The thing is, they just don't like care about their body. Right, like
that was me. That's why I got neck surgery. But now I very much care.
I used to not care too, and I think that's what made me good. I remember. So we had a kid who was really really good. We would lie about his age, get him in the adult tournaments and stuff. One time he had just turned 16 years old, and we had him in an advanced division, and he had 5 matches in the total elapsed. The adult advanced division, 16. The total elapsed time was 2 minutes and 31 seconds. Combined between his 5 matches.
That's nuts.
Yeah, and he was little blue belt kid, just absolutely. I was like, dang. I was like, Christian, like, how do you do this stuff? He's like, just gotta not care about yourself.
Oh man. Well, again, makes me glad that there's divisions where you don't have to go against those kids.
Yeah, dude, I can't handle. I'm like, dude, I very much care about myself. Like, a lot.
Oh man! All right, so unless you have any more rule set questions or anything like that,
is there anything else that we should know?
Pro division actually starts at age 16. There is not by belt rank.
Right. It's just I would assume it's just one
16
winner,
and up.
One straight up. What are weigh-ins for the pro division? Because I can make 75. But not before.
Unfortunately for you, weigh-ins are the morning of.
The morning of. Yeah. All right. Well.
I mean, hey, morning maybe.
You know when you bump that weight class up 10 pounds.
So do all of your kids do jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I assume they've been competing like this whole time.
Well, yeah. So it was pretty cool. Even before we started working with AGF, they've always competed for AGF. Like literally. 3 kids, Javi, Isaac, and Honor, their literal first jiu-jitsu tournament was AGF when they were 4 or 5 years old. Sick. So they've just grown up on the AGF.
So your whole family's just in it and just competing and just beating people up. That's so cool.
I actually found out about the, what I call it, high amplitude. What's it called?
High elevation takedown?
The high elevation takedowns from Honor.
Oh yeah, that highlight.
That's how I found out. I was like, wait, excuse me? I was like watching the video, right? And I was like, oh, that's sick. And then I'm like reading. Like the caption, I'm like, wait, hold on, what? Yeah, they used her to like explain, like how it's awarded an extra point. And then Isaac, I just saw, he showed me the picture from his first tournament ever, and it was an AGF when he was 4.
Yep.
Oh my god, that's so cool. That's why your kids are so good. How old is he now?
Isaac's 15.
15, and like the whole time Yanesi was here, he was like main training partner. He's out here just competing nonstop. That's so sick.
Yeah, dude. And he just did a wrestling tournament like 6 weeks ago.
I was about to ask that. So now that he's here, is he wrestling?
He wants to. Is more just finding the time. He's more worried it's going to take away from his jiu-jitsu. Like, obviously, he knows it goes hand in hand.
Right.
His whole focus is, like, ADCC, being a world champion.
Yeah.
Well, is he going to be a fighter?
He goes back and forth on it. He wants to. He doesn't like getting hit. he's more again. He's just
We're
more.
just gonna start.
You should have like a healthy dislike of getting hit, in my opinion. That's not necessarily, you know.
I don't know anyone who's gone to the sport
No,
like, man, I just want to get punched in the face.
There's some psychos out there. There are definitely some psychos. I think there's certain, like Justin Gaethje. I think, and actually, better example, Dan Hooker. You have those like weird anomalies, but those dudes, you know, I don't think that their post-fighting career is gonna feel as awesome.
I watch Isaac spar, like, he's already getting hit. He's fine.
Yeah, dude, that's what I was gonna say.
He's out here. He's just like a tiny dude. Like, he's a kid.
Yeah.
And he's getting hit by grown men. Like,
Yeah.
every Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I think
he's about it.
Right,
Yeah, no, he's certainly got the toughness for it.
yeah. And he's wild.
Yeah.
Boy, it's crazy.
He's still in that phase where he's like, don't care about my body.
You know what? Hate it, actually.
His injuries aren't real. You know, sprained my ankle. Next morning,
Don't
fine.
care.
That's been Isaac though since day one. Like,
Just about it.
well, no, just being a wild man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He even says like to this day, like I don't really think about what I'm doing. I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like looking back, it's funny. Sam and I would talk about. There were so many tournaments. Him growing up, we were so pissed off at him. Like Isaac, why did you do that? Like why did you do that? I don't know. Like he'd be winning a match,
Right.
And he'd sweep himself. He'd just roll over, attack something.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, why are you doing this? But
Hey, a little overly aggressive. It's kind of cool though.
It'll work itself out.
Now, hold on, Javi is wrestling right now.
yeah, Javi's
He's at West Lib, right?
West Liberty. The
That's
season
so
is just
cool.
about to finish up. Redshirted this year. Still
Yeah,
able to wrestle
good.
though, which
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Yeah. So that now, did he choose West Lib because you guys moved up here, or did you like? I wasn't sure if like that was part of the reason you were moving up here because he was going to West Lib.
no, if anything, that kind of just fit into everything lining up for us.
Yeah.
It was so it was. I think it was the week after we came from here. He got a recruitment letter from Waynesburg.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was thinking about that. He was considering that. Then I think it was like probably like a month or so later, West Lib they reached out to him.
Yeah.
Just they were keeping an eye on him. They just want to see how he was going to do at the state tourney. He won state. He won it 2 years. Then afterwards, they offered him a partial scholarship.
That's awesome. I mean, West Lib's a really great program. You know, I know a lot of really, really great wrestlers to come out of that program and still in that program.
Well, I mean, I saw him wrestling when he was at the gym, and I was like, "Yo, that kid's awesome."
Yeah, and he's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu too.
That's so
Started out with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
freshman college NCAA wrestler, also purple belt. Yeah,
His whole thing though is to fight. Like he's in
he's
college to
yeah.
get that high level experience.
See, like I fully agree with that. Right? Like it's like all right, like you could go get your degree. That's going to help you
Yes.
in your field of choice. And like, it's really hard to find a replacement for the opportunity to wrestle at that level.
Yes.
Right? Like,
I
it's
agree.
like, it's invaluable.
Especially in the United States, folk style wrestling. I mean, we've talked
That's
about
so
this
much based
so much.
about control. And
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, it just translates so well. Yeah. That's awesome. Cool.
That's
Great.
super sick. So, okay, hold on. Anything about AGF still?
I mean, the one that we are heavily like going in on that's next is March 29th here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? We're going to have everybody competing at that, right? What are some other ones that we should be looking out for? Like, cause you're traveling, you're doing these tournaments all the time. We actually had to try to figure out like our belt promotion ceremony. Like, Randy, what, do you have a weekend not gone? You know? So like, where you at? Are you going somewhere this weekend?
I am AJF Houston.
Houston,
back to Texas.
No, that's a haul. You flying?
Oh yeah, we're flying.
Okay, yeah.
All right. How long of a drive would that be like?
That'd be like
multi-day.
Dude, that'd be like 18 hours or something.
Probably like 18 hours.
Oh, you could knock that out in one day.
I wouldn't want to.
Yeah,
I've done
because
something
theoretically,
like that
yeah, I know exactly where that story's going. It's nuts. But hold on, before we forget something, I want to go back to belt promos. So,
Oh yeah.
again, kind of like the whole like having your family involved in martial arts. You got to give your own child a blue belt.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like, what was that like?
Man, it was like cool in so many different ways. I'll just be my own child, but Isaac started with the kids belt, so he worked his way through. then just seeing the improvements he's made now, because like now since we moved here, he just does adult classes. Just seeing how passionate he is about jiu-jitsu, it's pretty awesome, rewarding with this blue belt.
That's so incredible.
Yeah, it's like weird to think like he's just 15 and he just does all the adult classes, and it's not like he's like a big 15-year-old either, right? He's like maybe like a $115.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I train with him like all the time.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
He's
like,
that good.
And like you forget that he's just a kid.
Yeah.
Right? You forget sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I know I was listening to Lucas and Justin's podcast, and Justin was talking about how that belt promo in particular was really like influential on him. He was like, this makes me want to get my black belt so badly now so that I can do the same thing for my kid, you know? And like, I don't know, I just look at that and think that's super, super cool, because like I come from a family that is not about martial arts in the slightest, and so when I see these kids who like really love it coming up like this, I'm like, that's so incredible. And like, yeah, I just think that's really, really cool, and that's something that like I like to see at our gym, is how much like the family like atmosphere is just growing. That's really, really incredible.
Yeah. How lucky do you feel that your kids love this stuff?
Well, that's what I was about to say.
They love this stuff.
I feel blessed that we've never had to force them to train.
Yeah.
They love jiu-jitsu. So.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, my poor parents, my dad's like an art professor. They're very much not into fighting, and here's me like, all I want to do is fight. So that's cool that like you're on the same page.
Yeah, that was my dad at first.
Yeah, he was like, no fighting. Did your parents like, how long did it take until he's like, all right, this is kind of cool? Or did that moment even come?
No, my mom was supportive since day one. She didn't agree with it, but she's like, whoa, you're doing what makes you happy.
Right.
But my dad was like against it. Like, why are you going to drop out of college to fight? That shit doesn't work. If you're going to fight, you should be doing karate or something for self-defense.
Oh, you were right.
Made it a whole career out of it. Yeah, for not just you, for like like your kids are like loving it and stuff like that. And Sam, you just promoted her to our first degree as a black belt as well. So like a lot of degrees in that house, keeping everybody warm. That's so sick. Yeah.
All right, so in the future, what do you see for our team, for our guys? What are your goals? What are your expectations?
Yeah, it should be put out there. I mean, those of you who listen to the podcast, you hear us talk about Randy and stuff when we talk about the fight team and things of that nature. But I don't think like I formally said it on this podcast yet. We're talking about him being like the head coach of Bridgeville and stuff like that. But he's also one of the MMA coaches for our ever-growing and like honestly like fairly successful fight team. You know
yeah, I mean? and also filling in a really important gap, actually, because if you think about who are black belts who like work with the fight team a lot, or even just like the good grapplers, they're usually like 200-ish to one, however big Sage is, 60, 65, something like that. So like our lighter weight guys don't get like that high level grappling, or at least they didn't get that high level grappling with someone who's their size. And not that you can't learn something from being a bantamweight, going with Mike and everything, but it's so valuable. And like I've heard like Lucas talk about how great it is to roll with you, and all the little guys, like that's such an important like role to fill, and it just like really worked out perfectly.
Well, not just roll with him, but to get to learn from somebody, because like I mean, Will, we've been coaching MMA for how long? You know that the different weight classes are different sports.
Sure are.
They're different sports, So like to have, like the smaller weight classes now to be like have like a coach who's like been in there at those weight classes
and actually understands.
How long it's been since I've been in there at that weight class? It's a long time.
So hopefully the listeners understand, like you're part of the MMA team and everything. What do you?
Well, with that being said, too, I don't want to pigeonhole him into being like the small guy's coach.
Oh no, I mean you coach everyone.
Right? Yeah, so like like he's like leading Josh Sarasnik and Kevin Dzubik's camp, and they're both 205ers. You know what I mean, right? So like he can coach any weight class. We currently don't have any heavyweights, which is how I prefer we keep it. Me as a coach, I do like this is something that like you probably don't get to experience, Randy. But I like having the fighters be smaller than me.
Oh my god, it's so much better.
So
holding
if I need
pads.
to like prove a point or something, I mean, like like, at least they're smaller than me. You know?
The only one I could think of is Zach.
Yeah. so how are you enjoying working with the fighters?
Honestly, I'm loving it. This was something I hadn't done in a while. Cause like once I went into semi-retirement, I was coaching jiu-jitsu, coaching fighters. But once I started fighting again in 2017, I stopped training fighters because I just wanted to focus on my career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So coming back to it, like this is the first time I've coached MMA in quite a few years, and kind of reignited my passion for it. So,
good. I'm glad, because we need you.
Yeah.
We have a heavy night of fights coming up.
Yes.
March 15th. Right now, we've got 9 fighters under contract to fight on March 15th, and you got to take 5. Yeah. So we'll be in 2 different states on March 15th. Randy's going to take a squad down to Morgantown, West Virginia, and have some fighters fighting in the Made Men Fighting Organization. Meanwhile, Will and I will be up here at the 247 Fighting Championships. So, you know, thankfully we have Randy, or else we wouldn't be able to have like such a big fight team, which I'm really proud of having, like a big fight team.
Oh yeah,
you know
if anything, it's a testament to like how much this fight team has grown, that so many fighters in 2 different states, 2 different promotions.
I mean, there were years where like, so we're gonna have 9 fights and maybe more, because there's some there's some potential matching still going on. So we're gonna have 9 fights in one day. And there's probably been years where we had 9 fights in the whole year.
Less.
I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, no, it's really super cool.
Yeah, but it, you know, takes a village if you're going to have a deep roster like that.
It certainly
so
does.
Thankfully, we have Randy's experience to lean on here.
So, unless you have anything else there, where do you see the fight team going? What are your expectations? What do you, because again, a lot of these fighters are listening right now. Like, what do we expect from them? Where do you see this going?
Obviously, I see some of them breaking into the UFC. I think that'd be the next step, going from being a regional fight team to where now we're pumping out fighters to the big leagues. For me personally, I always enjoy developing fighters. So, like, if I could build fighters up to where y'all ready for the fight team, I feel I'm doing my job in that regard.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that, because I like other people to do all the work and me get the credit. So if you could if you could continue to develop them, then I'll corner them and tell everybody I'm the reason they're
no, that good kid from Bridgeville, he's training with me now.
Dude, sometimes it's just like, you keep taking my people.
It is cool to see like the other gyms grow, and like, because you know, when we first started like producing the other gyms, you know, they're just newer, so like you don't have as high quality of guys coming through. But now, as those gyms grow and some time goes on, like we're seeing really good guys come from all of the gyms, and that's just like,
I mean, look at these upcoming fights, right? Like Sarasnik's a Bridgeville guy. You know what I mean? Kevin, he might be a strip guy.
He's mostly the strip guy.
I kind of like associate him and Sarasnik as like one. Because they're like each other's training partners and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like Bridgeville's got fighters.
Yeah.
Now,
and that's our newest location. So that means you're doing something right. That's very cool.
Who's your least favorite fighter on the team? And why is it Tim Bailey?
Yo, Mike loves hating on Tim. So we had, I forget how, I think it was questions from the team. We should run that back. So like, I would gather a bunch of questions. Mike didn't know what they were, and I'd ask. And someone was like, who do you like to beat up most on the team? Around the team, and Mike was immediately like, Tim. I was like, why? No good reason.
Dude, so here, you'll like this, Randy. So I once did Tim really dirty once, and you're gonna love it. It was good. So we had the vending machine in the strip district, and there was body armors in there, and there was the orange mango, or I don't know, it was like orange colored, but it was like mango or whatever, peach mango, yeah, and. I see Tim getting one, and he's drinking. He's like, Coach, you know, he's like, this is my reward after practice. I look forward to this. And I was like, yeah, dude, right on, Tim. You know, all right, catch you next week. See ya. You know, and then he leaves. So I buy every out of the vending machine. This was right around Thanksgiving. This was you were probably up here. It was like Thanksgiving of 23. So on Thanksgiving open mat, they're all gone, and I was out of town for Thanksgiving. So Tim and I this was a Tuesday night to a Thursday, right? Obviously Thanksgiving, and Tim sends me like a picture. He goes, "Man, I can't believe they're all out of these peach mango." And I was like so proud that like I held it, right?
Dude.
Like, and then I sent him a video of me walking to my fridge, opening my fridge door, and they were all in my fridge. And he was like, "I can't believe it."
Bro, no one enjoys pranks and like especially long cons more than you.
Long cons are where it's at. Yeah.
Can we talk about the
what? Yeah, because it's gone. It's gone. Okay.
This is a perfect example of like how Mike has been terrorizing the gym for the past 15 years.
Yeah, the grand finale of it has been removed. It's unavailable now.
But still
Right.
hilarious. I mean, you lived it. Why don't you tell it?
All right, so there was the Zealy crew. They adopted this like pirate's flag, right? Like a pirate, like raised the Jolly Roger flag, and they would hang it up in there. And Andy Anderson, who was managing Zealy, he would take it down, right? And then they would hang it up, and he would take it down. And so they got me in on it, right? So I started hanging it up and stuff, and Andy'd be like, "Who's doing this?" And he would get so mad. And meanwhile, it was like me and with the guys, right? And then they would like get stickers made of it, and like we would just put stickers in different places. And then the grand finale was we bought like 50 like small yard flags of it, and I was gonna go over to Andy's house in the middle of the night and just plant them all through his yard. But Andy had moved out of that house, so the grand finale went. But like the we got these yard flags. Earl got them, and in like let's say like I don't know like June, July, August, and Andy's birthday is in April, right? So like we were like 8 months out, but we had a plan like of what we were gonna do.
Oh my god!
But yeah, he would get so mad. He would post about it in Slack.
That's how I learned about it, because I saw it like in our Slack channel, and he's like, "Who keeps putting up these flags?" And I was like, "Man, I wonder what's going on."
I reply, I'd be like, "If I find out who's putting these flags up, I'll tell you what, dude, they're gonna regret it. All right, I'll tell you what, they're gonna regret it."
I talked to Mike, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, it's me." Oh man, yeah. Actually, does Andy know about that, or is he finding out right
He's
now?
finding out right now. Everybody else knows, but Andy. Everybody else. No, I don't want to take all the credit for it. Like the Zealy guys, like
They started it. They started it, but
like,
you amplified it.
I was the person who like made it okay, because like I think even Warren was like getting irritated, and I was like, "Dude," I was like, "Warren," I was like, "It's me. You gotta let me have this." And he was just like, "Oh, all right."
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess that's in the future too. That has more long cons.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that should be a warning to you.
Note taken.
If you notice some strange things happening, it's probably
like,
Mike.
I can't believe this. Like I have these flip flops, right? But like, I keep getting only 2 lefts. Like, how is this happening? I spent like 10 grand on flip flops just to keep giving me 2 lefts.
Love a good Mike long con.
Yeah,
that's
all
awesome.
Right, cool. All right, Will, you got anything else?
I got nothing else. You got anything else?
No, I'm good. Randy, you wanna shout anything out?
AJF Pittsburgh, March 29th. Early registration ends March 8th. It's only $95 right now, then $25 each division. And thank you guys, to everybody at Stout, for making us feel at home. I just feel it's been a good fit for us, hopefully for you guys, and I just want to keep growing with you guys.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and we love having you, and we're super lucky.
And actually, directly to our fighters, if you guys are listening, competition experience is super important. Even if it's not a fight, I promise you it'll carry over to your fighting. Show up to this tournament. It's going to matter.
I mean, to piggyback up on that, like I notice, what you guys are doing and what you're not doing. And I'm not always going to tell you that I notice, but you'll kind of figure it out when I quit helping you. Like, man, Mike used to really pay attention whenever I was doing my wall wrestling. Now he's not anymore. Hey, you reap what you sow. All right, that was this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches. Meet Coach Randy. We'll catch you guys again next time.